What is slack tide? Have you ever noticed that the water seems to stand still for a moment before it starts moving again? That moment is known as slack tide. Slack tide, also referred to as slack water, is the period during a tidal cycle when the tidal current is at its weakest or nearly non-existent. This happens when the water appears to be neither rising nor falling, indicating that the tidal flow has slowed down to a near stop before changing direction. Tides are driven by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun, creating a predictable pattern of rising and falling water levels. During flood tide, water moves toward the shore, increasing the water depth. Conversely, during ebb tide, water recedes away from the shore. Slack tide occurs twice in a typical tidal cycle, once near high water and once near low water. At these moments, the current velocity is minimal as the tide transitions from flooding to ebbing or vice versa. For boaters, slack tide is significant because it represents the safest and easiest time to navigate tidal waters, especially in areas with strong currents. When slack tide occurs, the water movement is calmest, which reduces the risk of being pushed off course or encountering turbulent water. This makes it an ideal time for entering or leaving harbors, navigating narrow channels, or anchoring. The duration of slack tide can vary based on several factors, including location, tidal range, moon phase, wind conditions, and local geography. In areas with large tidal ranges, slack tide tends to be shorter, sometimes lasting only a few minutes. In regions with smaller tidal ranges, slack tide can last longer, sometimes up to an hour or more. Generally, slack tide occurs around 30 minutes before and after the times of high and low tide, but this timing can shift depending on local conditions. Boaters often refer to tide tables, charts, and navigation tools to predict slack tide times. This knowledge helps in planning safe and efficient routes. Understanding slack tide is also essential for route planning and weather forecasting in tidal waters, as it affects current speeds and directions. These factors influence fuel consumption, travel time, and overall safety. In essence, slack tide is that brief moment when tidal currents slow to a near stop before reversing direction. It occurs near high and low tides and is a key concept for boaters to grasp for safe navigation and effective route planning in tidal environments.